It's showtime.
It is, and on cue, Andy Mead, as the live went red, Andy highlighted that it is showtime. We are now streaming to Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. And I always say what happens to the BBC News at 6, the second we go live, is it plummets. And the BBC have started to complain about us doing the live at 6 o'clock. But due to popular demand, we're going to keep it at 6. And unfortunately, it's just going to hinder their views and ratings somewhat. So as people start to find out that we're live, we must apologise for being a minute late. We were getting a few puddings ready because today is National Dessert Day, and that is something to be celebrated. Andy, you've got something that you've brought to this party that you're going to eat the whole lot of apparently while we're live. Show us what you've got.
I'm feeling under amazing pressure because Dominique, my wife, has made this today for a friend. And if I drop this, I'm in so much trouble that literally it just wouldn't be worth it. So you've now seen it. That's my contribution to the National Cake Day. And I'm now going to give it back to my wife and get it away from me so I don't, 1, eat it, or 2, stick my finger in it, or 3, drop it.
Please drop it.
2 seconds. No, 2 seconds, I'll be back.
And apparently there's actually 2 full avocados that have gone into that cake as well, which is pretty special. Before we get onto yours, Tristan, and mine, we're just going to highlight Mike is running slightly late. He will be with us shortly. There's a few things that we're going to talk about. We were going to talk about the nationwide house price index review. But actually, what I want to talk about instead is some economy analysis that I had recently, a few hours ago, with a chap that does it for the government. And he was really helpful, actually, when I met with him a year ago in giving us some analysis of how he felt the market would go. And it so happened that it was very much against what the media said. So I'm going to talk about inflation. I'm going to talk about base rate forecasting, what it might mean to mortgages and people that are buying at the moment, and also what's going on with wages and the impacts that we're having at the moment when it comes to the amount of jobs that are available that can't be filled. But if you're watching, pop like or say hello in the comments just so we know you can hear us. I'm using a mic, Tristan's using headphones, so it's always good to just from a techie point of view get a little check done. We've got Carl that's come straight in. Dessert day, my second favourite day after steak and whoo, we're live, Carl. Let's be careful how we put these in here. Tristan, what have you got? What dessert have you got?
Well, I did put a special request in, but I was a bit late with Gorilla Bakes. They're based in Arborfield. They do some great stuff, and they're normally at Crowthorne Market every Friday. So make sure you check those guys out. But as a result, I ended up going to M&S and getting these bad boys. Bit of cheesecake, and I tell you what, these are the best cheesecakes you'll have.
Do you collect the little glass jars?
I normally throw them away, but you
obviously recycle.
Yeah, I recycle. Yeah, that's what I do.
Mark is saying good evening all. Thank you for checking in with us. And what we would love to know for anyone watching this, and we'll remind them throughout the day, it is National Dessert Day. What are you having for pudding tonight? What is your favourite dessert? If you could only have one dessert for the rest of your life, what would that dessert be? And here's Andy Humphreys with his disappointed if no one mentions strawberry trifle, hands down the best. Controversial.
Nah.
I was meant to be at home where I was going to then show the dessert that I've got, but because I'm not, I've had to stay in the office working late for our clients because that's what I'm about. But I do have in the office a drumstick chewy, which is as close to dessert as I can get. Mark is saying no to Andy, and Carl is highlighting that his favourite dessert is sticky toffee pudding. So let's park desserts just for 5-10 minutes, but keep them coming in the comments. I want to know what everyone's favourite dessert is. I'm going to go to Tristan first. Tristan, just give us a little bit of an insight how things are at the moment. I know you wanted to talk about limited business for property buying or personal property buying from a buy-to-let point of view in a short summary, which hopefully everyone will find quite interesting. But how are things in general in the rental market at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, no different from previous conversations. For those that haven't seen my market update, we go into this in more detail, but Short overview, still busy, massive demand. Stock's still low, but it's picking up. Valuations have certainly picked up, which is great news. So hopefully we'll start to see more houses come to the market. But family homes are just ridiculous at the moment. Listed another property yesterday evening. I've got 13 viewings lined up on it already, and I've got a number of people I've left messages for. The last one we had 15 viewings, and we had 7 offers on it. So market's still very buoyant.
And do you think there's any reason why that would slow down, or is this purely based on the fact that there are less properties on the market and loads of people looking to move? Do you think there's always going to be more people looking to move? I don't think that's going to change. But yeah, what's your thoughts? Do you think that's going to sort of flip on its head at any point?
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. I think the one thing that's going to change it is if more stock comes to market. The issue we have right now is because the whole of the year since COVID, everyone took all the houses, and then there was a really limited amount of properties on the market, family homes. People were going from apartments into houses, and then the apartments started going. It was just literally constantly nothing on the market. Now, every time a property comes up, because there's not a substantial amount coming up, normally you see a large number of properties being listed every 24 hours. We're not having that. So what's happening, 1 or 3 properties will go live, and within probably an hour, you've got hundreds of inquiries come through, and everyone goes for those properties. And where people have missed out for the last 3, 4, some even 5 months, they're putting offers in before they've even seen it, because they've lost out on several properties on that. So until we start seeing more properties come to market around the same time, I don't see it change anytime soon, personally.
Interesting stuff. Andy, from a new homes point of view,
Yes.
what I think at the moment, we talk about demand and supply, which is a big part of the reason why prices are going up. They're going up for new homes, they're going up for residential, and clearly, as Tristan says, they're going up for rentals as well. It is based on the fact that the amount of transactions that took place because of the stamp duty holiday increased drastically. Therefore, there will be a slight drop in the normal kind of, it averages about 100,000 transactions a month in the UK. Over the stamp duty window, we saw it as high as 250,000 in 1 month, and then an instant drop to like 40,000-50,000 the following month. Builders could have an impact on this because they could supply the market. Are more builders building? Is more land being acquired? Is there a shortage of land? Are we seeing an influx in new homes coming to the market? What's the kind of state of the new homes world at the moment?
The new homes market is like the rest of the market. It's very, very strong. The problem we've got at the moment is there is just a lack of supply, and I think if anybody you saw my free fact Friday last Friday, when I mentioned about supply and what's happened over the last 30, 60 years. So for those who hadn't seen it, very briefly, over the last 30 years, there has been 3 million less houses built than the previous 30 years. So 1961 to 1991, there was 3 million more homes built than 1991 to 2021. And the population has risen by 9 million. Now, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to work out that there's more people, less houses. I think in the UK, there's 28 million homes in the UK. There's a population of, what are we now, 50 odd million? 60 million, sorry. So there's a massive shortage of homes, and the government have said that they want a target of 300,000 new builds built every year from mid-2020. So what we're now, 2021, 2022. In the next 3 years, they want to have a target of 300,000 new homes built every year, which is great. But that ain't going to happen unless the local authorities pull their finger out, unless we sort out building procurement of materials, unless we sort out labour. So I think we're currently at 200,000 homes last year were built. So they need another 30% to increase. But there's a massive hold up with the land. There's a massive hold up with the planning. There's a massive hold up with materials coming in. Now, God knows what's going to happen over the next 6-12 months now that we've got this further stockpile over at Felixstowe with the ships all in the harbour. A lot of people don't understand that has a massive knock-on effect on the housing market. I don't know if you remember the Suez Canal. Was it last year? It got blocked up for was it 4 weeks, 3 weeks? That had a massive effect globally, not just in the UK, but globally on materials. America then started buying up all the wood. So there was no lumber, as they say in America. There was no lumber in the UK, no wood in the UK. So all these things have a massive knock-on effect. You can bash Boris as much as you want, but it's a global issue. Yeah. If there's nothing coming through, if the materials aren't coming through, what they're going to build with? So it's a massive
shortage of labour as well. You know, from a manufacturing perspective, or transport or warehouse, all of the things that kind of interlink the foundations of house building. The statistics show at the moment there is just over 200,000 job shortages in manufacturing, and the best part of 320,000 shortage of jobs in transport, warehouse and logistics at the moment, which means that's 500,000 jobs short in those areas, which are the kind of layers that get it to the builders and the manufacturing, etc. So
how many people are unemployed currently?
Well, I don't know the unemployment statistics, but what I do know is there is just over 1 million jobs short in the UK. So labour to job vacancies to supply of people looking to get a job or people being employed is 1 million. That's the impact that inflation is having at the moment. Is there is so many job voids with not enough people to fill those jobs, which is why we're seeing inflation. I think the most recent report was 2%, and then I think yesterday was 3.2. So we're seeing a big chunk in it. But all of those impacts that you've just said there are partnered with that, which is why, you know, when you look at someone trying to get their fence done in their garden at the moment, it's crazy. You can't get the materials, and when you do find out how much they are, you don't want to pay for it. So
yeah, definitely. But you know, we're not going to make this political because I'll get right on my soapbox. But you know, inflation's gone up. The cost of petrol is just ridiculous. Now, for all those people moaning now about the cost of petrol, if you filled up your car when you had half a tank of petrol, you've contributed to that petrol rise. Because you didn't have to buy the fuel. There wasn't a shortage of fuel. It was just people's mentality in the south to go out and make sure they've got a full tank of petrol when they didn't need it.
So on what we saw with the petrol crisis is how much of an impact fear can have, and how much of an impact the media can have. So what I just thought I'd highlight is there is apparently going to be a shortage of estate agents over the next few months.
Let me just tell you something very quickly, which I heard yesterday, and this is the last I'm going to go on here. And I wrote this down because it absolutely blew my mind. Over 2 million Christmas puddings were sold in September, because people are afraid of not having a Christmas pudding. So 2 million people went out and bought Christmas puddings in September.
Are you sure that's not just because it's National Dessert Day today and people love Christmas pudding?
This was last week.
Yeah,
I heard this last week. I'm sure it was something ridiculous in terms of the amount of Christmas puddings that were sold. But I literally had to write it down because I was just 500,000 Christmas puddings were bought in September.
So for anyone that's not watched Andy live before, or doesn't follow his page, follow Mead New Homes every Friday. He's got Free Fact Friday. He is Mr. Statman when it comes to random statistics. If there was a pub quiz, you'd want him on your side. A, because he'll buy you a beer because he's a good guy, and B, because he knows his facts. And there's your Christmas pudding fact on National Dessert Day. I don't think we can get onto the petrol crisis today. I will send an email to Boris and see if he wants to join us live next week at 6 o'clock, because we are live every week at 6. But it is interesting what we talk about in the economy, and it's baffling to how the property market has gone. But what I want to highlight, this is a global thing. We are not the only country that are seeing prices increase drastically. And I got the statistics on it this afternoon, and some people will find this quite interesting. But in terms of global house prices and the rate in which they're happening globally, and I'll explain why this is happening in a sec, Sweden and Denmark are over 15% over the last 12 months. Now, the UK is showing 11 at the moment, but Sweden and Denmark are 15%. Russia, the US, Korea, Canada, Germany, and Holland are all above the UK. So it is a global scenario. It's not just stamp duty impacted that's meant house prices are going up. And the big reason why that's happened is because of all the central banks across the world. So we take the Bank of England in the UK. They've printed more money to pay for things like furlough. The government have borrowed more money, which, as we've mentioned before, has brought more money into the economy. And because there's more money in the economy, there's more money being spent or wanting to be spent, which is why we will see inflation. Now, a lot of people have said to me when I've gone live and said, I don't think prices will stop going up for the next probably 12 or maybe even 18 months in the housing market. And they've come back and kind of bitten and said, well, inflation's going to soar. So, of course, they will. And interest rates might go up as well next year. But the value of wages is increasing as well. We're seeing a 5% growth in the average wage, and we'll probably see that go into next year as well. So people can afford more. There's more money in the economy. This is one for Free Fact Friday, Andy. You can have this one on me. 19 trillion pounds, or the equivalent of pounds, has been added to the global economy since the pandemic. 19 trillion pounds. And to put that in perspective, the US has 20 trillion pounds in their economy. So a whole United States of America's economy has been added to the globe since the pandemic in new money, new printed money. So we there's a lot of money in the world at the moment, and that's kind of where it's at. So it's quite interesting. We've gone quite deep actually on the economy side of things. There's still people watching, which is great. So hopefully you're finding that interesting. Let's bring it down slightly a level, because it is National Dessert Day, and I just want everyone's thoughts on Mark's go-to dessert here. Black Forest Gatto.
Not for me.
Not
Cherries?
for me. It's wrong. You can't have cherries in a cake. It's wrong. That's like pineapple on a pizza. It just doesn't happen.
I love her Hawaiian, I'm not going to lie. But I'm not sure.
Right,
so far we've had sticky toffee pudding. We've had what else have we had? We've got cheesecake from Tristan,
caramel cheesecake,
pudding, Black Forest Gatto. We've had a few random ones. Trifle. Any advances on that for anyone that's watching? Throw it in there. If you just like a good vanilla ice cream and strawberries, let us know. If it's avocados you're interested in, then we want to know as well. So that is what interests me, is what does the housing market do? And we keep talking about what is it going to do next year? I want to talk about mortgage rates. It's crazy cheap at the moment to get a buy-to-let mortgage, Tristan. And it's also, there's not a lot of money in savings at the moment. So from a trend point of view, and you two will interlink with this, are you seeing a lot more buy-to-let investors that are new, or a lot of experienced buy-to-let investors buying new homes, buying apartments, buying locally? Are we seeing an uplift now of buy-to-let investors coming to the market because they know rental prices have gone up? Is that happening on trend at the moment?
I'd have to say so. The amount of new investors I've seen come through on a daily basis recently, there's certainly been a lot of them. And I'm in talks with landlords that are investing in other properties as well. So yeah, definitely come out of the woodwork.
Absolutely.
I've seen it as well. There's a lot of people that haven't dabbled before that are now a lot more serious and are investing their money in property rather than into the banks. And I think the best advice I can give people who are looking at it is, you're not looking at a short-term investment, you're looking at a long-term. So if you're getting a yield that's 5.5%, that's great. If you're looking at a long-term investment and you're looking at capital growth, which could be the site we've got in Slough, Slough, they reckon over the next 5 years, anticipated capital growth over the next 5 years is between 14 and 20%. That's not including what the housing market does. That's just based on Crossrail, the regeneration. That's what you need to look at. Yes, so long as the mortgage and as long as the rent covers your mortgage and you're not out of pocket, the capital growth is what you need to be looking at. And that's what a lot of people are looking at the moment.
Even the rent figures we're achieving on properties at the moment, though, is pushing them yields up massively. But the growth in it with a period of time as well, like you said, is going to grow substantially. I mean, look at some of the properties we've had in Bracknell that was historically selling sort of 270, 300. Some of them pushing 400 now. It's going up substantially.
it's easy to talk about yields because it's numbers that people understand. Is it 4? Is it 5? Is it 6%? But I think you have to talk about, as Andy says, what's the equity growth likely to be, but also what's the profit margin? And because interest rates are so low and rents have gone up, the profit margins are really significant, and that has an impact when you go to a more detailed yield, because you could 10% overpay your mortgage, even if it was on interest only. At the end of the year, you could do a 10% max overpayment and start to get your mortgage paid down over the period of time that rents are high and interest rates are low, which does bring me on to interest rates. And on our TikTok channel, if anyone loves a bit of TikTok, at Avocado Property, you'll see me on there. Some of it's controversial. Apologize if I swear. It happens every now and then. It slips out. I don't mean it. And Instagram, but I posted the same video on there. Two different things. There's cheap 5-year fixed deals at the moment. So people are thinking, let's go for it. Now, if you're buying a new build, for example, Andy, 5-year fixed deal, what I just want to stress for people that are buying is, yes, it is cheap, but please don't stretch yourself, because mortgage rates in 6 months' time won't be as low as they are now. I don't think. I think they will climb at some point next year as the Bank of England base rate starts to grow, which means in 3, 4, 5 years' time, can you afford what it was 18 months ago? And I just think there's a bit of a safety check to do to make sure you can before you stretch yourself. I think that's sensible to highlight, Andy, rather than just sort of saying, stretch yourself, it's dirt cheap. It's not going to be dirt cheap to ever. And I'm sure you, much like me, as I've had a mortgage at 6.2% in my lifetime. So I think that's just a sensible thing to highlight. Is that probably fair?
Yeah,
Andy?
definitely. I mean, I've always looked at the last 10 years, I think it is now. I've had mortgages is a fixed rate. And I've got a new fixed rate 6 months ago, less than 2% fixed for 5 years. It's just a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. In fact, it's less than 0.5% fixed for 5 years. So I've done that with the understanding that, yes, the market may well go up, but if it doesn't, it's not. I'm not going to be paying less and looking at other people thinking, oh, I should have got that rate. Because 1.5% for me, I'm happy with that, and that's what you need to look at is what suits you, not what the Joneses or the Smiths are paying. It's what suits you financially. But if it suits you financially, that's the best mortgage rate.
And just be aware they will go up. So when the term comes to an end and you refix in 5 years' time, you're not going to get 1.5 again. Very unlikely. It's going to be up back over 2. And hopefully you've paid off enough that the difference is not too bad. But it's people being aware of it that don't know. And also, if you are fixing in for 5 years rather than 2, you have to just be really confident that you are going to be there, because the redemption penalties on those mortgages, they start very high in year 4, year 3, and then they incrementally drop in year 2 and year 1. But they're still very high penalties. You're going to pay thousands and thousands of pounds if something happens in 18 months, 2 years. You need to sell within that mortgage. So just weigh those up. I just think it's sensible to highlight that for anyone that's watching.
And don't forget, kids, your home is at risk if you don't keep up repayments on your loan.
Yeah, we probably should put a disclaimer somewhere, but we're not mortgage advisors, so we can say what we want, because we're not governed by the mortgage.
IFA.
Yeah,
FSA. Sorry,
FSA. That's the one. Yeah. IFA stands for Ian Financial Advisor. FYI. Tristan, podcast. I got a mic here. With this mic, we've filmed some podcasts.
We have
exciting news. Take it away. Talk to me.
So Friday 22nd, we are officially launching our podcast, which we've obviously spoke about for a few weeks or a few months now. Been a lot of preparation involved, a lot of recording, a lot of editing. We're still in the editing stages, but the first 3 are ready to go. So that's Friday next week. If you keep an eye on our Facebook page or all of our pages, you'll get more information on that. There's a number of things we're going through. And just to be very clear to everyone, the podcast was set up to give free value, speaking to individual guests from different parts of the industry to share their experiences and knowledge to you And there's no selling involved at all. So it's pure value. So I'd highly recommend it. And if there's anyone in particular you'd like on the podcast, because we will be continuing it weekly from now on, then let us know. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to get the people in order to meet what you guys are looking for.
Awesome. I'm excited to see it go out, and I'm excited to hear the feedback for landlords. I know, Andy, it's something you'll probably share because you've got a community of landlords that buy new builds, which is great, and developers that will find it interesting as well. We've got accountants on there, solicitors on there, commercial finance strategy, portfolio strategy specialists. Like it's going to be really cool to see. So yeah, excited to see that. If any, and I just want to sort of talk about this as well, because it's something that I need a little bit of help with for people that live locally, anywhere in the kind of home counties area. If you've got 16, 17, 18-year-olds at sixth form college at the moment, and someone's got a real kind of passion about videography or photography, we're looking to potentially do some projects with some people in colleges, some people in sixth forms that would find a bit of work experience. Maybe there's a job at the end of it as well, but a bit of work experience, something to add to their portfolio, something to add to their CV, a bit of videography and a little bit of photography as well, working with the Avocado brand on some personal brand stuff and some, like I say, some video work as well. I'll do some teaching, some support and some help on maybe some editing, some marketing, but come and work with us for a couple of hours here and there and work on some projects. So if anyone's watching and that sounds like one of their children, then we would love to speak to them, put us in contact, and I think they'll find it really enjoyable. We're a young, kind of fresh, exciting brand for someone like that to work with. They wouldn't find it boring. We're not going to send them out leaflet dropping for 3 hours at a time. It's going to be some fun, creative stuff. So I just thought I'd throw that in. If you know anyone, any of the local schools, put them in contact, send us a DM, and we'd love to work with them on that basis as well. Andy, what's next for new homes then? You've mentioned about the shortage of supply for materials and generally things like that. I know if we went back 15 years ago, I think the government said they were going to build something like 270 houses a year, and now they've brought that to 300,000, like you mentioned. They didn't get anywhere near the 270. In fact, I seem to remember about 8 or 9 years ago, there was a deficit the size of Birmingham in the country's house building process.
Yeah.
What we're expecting for next year in new homes, design changes, different sort of ergonomics. What's going on in the world at the moment? What's on trend?
Yeah, I mean the planners are being very eco-friendly in terms of they're looking more favourably on eco-friendly houses, on sustainable houses, on sustainable materials, and a lot of the planning now is based on using locally sourced materials. So it's trying to give back into the community. So yeah, you've got all the EV points now are a major point of a lot of developments, houses and apartments with electric car charging points. So that's all coming in. But a lot of it is just sustainable. But I can't see them getting anywhere near it. And it pains me because there are so many. It's like the funnel, they've got all these people in this funnel that want to buy houses, want to buy a brand new home, and it's just literally dripping out of the bottom. And it's, if they can sort that out, then, it'll sort the economy out. Because, as well as I do, for every residential house sale in the UK, it adds £10,000 to the economy.
Do you think if there were more mortgages at a higher loan to value, that might help? Because I don't know. It's not affordability. I don't think it's not affordability. It's not accessibility of mortgages. It's just literally the products just isn't there for them to move into. Okay. And that's the difficulty. It's I don't want to get into a if the mortgages were if everybody was allowed to have a mortgage, I think they're quite sensible in terms of where they are with the mortgages, which is the right thing to be doing, because we don't want to get into a boom and bust scenario that we've seen over the last 10, 15 years. None of us want to see that. We're in the market at the moment where it's driven by lack of supply, but there's also a bit of a cap on pricing as well. We're being fairly sensible in terms of, prices aren't going through the ceiling as much as, they are going up.
But as you said, you look at other areas like Sweden, Norway, their house price growth is more than the UK.
Yeah.
So it's I think there's a lot going on globally, and there's a lot needs to be done internally within the UK for the planning process, because you've got all the eco warriors that say we haven't got enough land to build on. There's only something like 2% of the UK is urbanised. That's a mind-blowing statistic.
I saw it on your Free Fact Friday. Is there more golf courses than houses or something like that?
So there's twice as many. Twice as much land covers golf courses than does urbanisation of properties.
That's unbelievable. That's an unbelievable statistic. It blows my mind. I know people love golf, and obviously enjoy your golf, etc. And I'm not saying build on golf courses for 1 minute. So if you do love golf, please don't troll me on it. I'm not saying that, but it does show how much capability there is to build more property, to get more people on the ladder and to house more people as well. It's a mind-blowing stat, and I think it's a great way to end this live chat. It's flown, this chat. I love the dessert convo. We went right into the economy as well. We've got a podcast launching on the Landlord Page for Tristan. So check out that page at the Landlord Page, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube as well. And then obviously, if you're not following Andy on Mead New Homes, check him out on Instagram, YouTube channel, mainly on Facebook and LinkedIn. And you'll see updates on what's going on from a builder's point of view. Just for the Free Fact Friday, it's 100% worth it. And if anyone's got any questions about anything we spoke about tonight, if they want to get more of an in-depth detail to why I think interest rates will climb next year, but it won't have a big impact on the housing market. What should you do if you're thinking of selling in the new year? Strike now, wait, not wait. All of these questions, we'll answer them. And if you're a landlord that's obviously thinking about what do I do with my managed property, have a chat with Tristan. And if you're a developer out there watching and you've got some sites that you want help with from a marketing point of view and you want an expert to kind of deal with them from start to finish, then obviously talk to Andy Mead, because he'll do things that other estate agents can't do and get results that they don't get. And the evidence is very much in the 3 developments he's working with at the moment. So enjoyed the chat, gents. Enjoy your puddings. I'm going to go off and have a little snack on these banana skids. And I will see you all very, very soon.
Cheers. Thanks for the chat.
See you later.